Hey, welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction. More importantly, it's about recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. He's a clinical psychologist. And the first part of the show is where we kind of just catch up with each other.
Yeah.
And, then we usually end with Matt's Mental Health Minute, some information that you bring, because you're a statistics-driven guy. You like numbers.
I was looking at a bunch of them earlier today and having a good time.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you like numbers because numbers don't lie? Or what is your infatuation with the numbers and kind of that style of psychology?
Well, I like to know that, well, let's be honest. There's a lot of frou-frou psychology out there, and some of it we don't know if it is real or if it's just someone's opinion. So I think if you are, if you go to graduate school and you're a professor like I am, a clinical psychologist, you want to be able to measure things. So science, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously there's more to it than just numbers, but numbers help you know where you're at compared to other people, and statistics can be manipulated. But, I was reviewing some personality testing with somebody this morning, and it was really great because we were able to clarify what's a problem, what's not a problem, and I think they left feeling kind of relieved and informed about what treatment they need, and it made it clear to me. So I love measuring things, and that gives you a place at least to start.
And you said, a lot of things out there are kind of foo-foo and no real science behind them. But in the world
there's a lot of that.
But in the world of recovery where I live, sometimes that frou-frou stuff makes sense to somebody. Now, I'm just playing devil's advocate for this because people call me and go, hey, what are you doing? And I go, I'm doing what works for me. There's no science or there's no reason why it should work for you. It may not.
That's not true.
It's not?
If it works.
Yes.
Then it's measurable.
Ooh.
You may not know how to measure it, and you may not feel the need to measure it. But if something is working, then it's real. And if something's real, we can measure it. That's what I mean.
So when I talk to people and I go, you got to find a recovery that works for you, something that you can do, something that makes sense. And it might not make sense to everybody else, but if it makes sense to you and it's working for you. I'll go back to that story. I've told it multiple times when I was in the recovery house. And while we're in the recovery, we had multiple people stop by and show different modalities, different ways to center yourself, to find out who you are and kind of what it is. And at one point, we're standing in a circle, and somebody from the Lakota tribe comes over. And they burn some sage, and they take a drum, and they start pounding on it, and they're blowing the sage in everybody's faces. Right. And in my mind, I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of, and there is not a chance in hell that this is going to get me sober. Mm-hmm. And then she proceeds to talk. It shows, and when you wake up in the morning, you got to take your water. You got to bless it to the east. You got to bless it to the west. You got to bless it to the north. You got to bless it to the south, and be thankful for that you have this day. Mm. And I'm like, what is going on? I wanted to call my mom, and mind you, I'm 45, and go, what did you sign me up for? More importantly, what am I getting myself into?
Right.
And this didn't make any sense to me. Right. And so then we go to a different class, we go to different modalities, we go to different meetings. And the next morning, I'm coming downstairs, and I'm going into the kitchen to get my breakfast. I look outside, and there's two guys standing next to the river. And lo and behold, they've got their cup, and they've got it in the air, and they're raising it to the east, the north, the south, the west. And they're thanking for having another day.
Yeah.
And as these guys are getting ready to walk in the house, I was going to light these guys up. Like, what are you guys doing? If you're going to buy this,
that's a little O-Town coming out.
I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona.
Yeah,
and if you're buying that, I'm selling you everything I've got.
Sure.
And as they reach for the door, something in me said, "Why? Why are you going to take that away from them?
Right.
What benefit is that? If that makes sense to them and that helps them get sober, what kind of a-hole would you be to take that away from them?"
Right.
And so I didn't say anything. Because I was like, if that's going to work for them, then let that work for them. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think it would work for me. But if that's going to work for them and that keeps them sober, give it to them.
Right.
And so I guess what I'm saying is that although that is measurable, if it works for them.
So what are we measuring?
Sobriety?
Perhaps. You already said it. maybe we don't have to measure the prayer that they said or the sage, but the mindset shift that created gratitude. And there is a ton of research on gratitude that shows that it decreases depression, increases optimism, and people get healthier and happier when they practice gratitude every day. That's measurable. So perhaps the ceremony was a vehicle to help them shift into a mindset of gratitude. And perhaps today they don't do that ceremony every day anymore, but if they've retained an attitude of gratitude, then perhaps they're still sober.
See, Scotty, that's why he's my friend. He's wicked smart. He's wicked smart.
So we have to know what we're measuring, but I do think that there are sometimes things that are taught on social media or that are just work for one person's experience, and I wouldn't take it away if it works for one person's experience. But I, as a mental health professional, wouldn't try to teach that to everybody if I can't measure that it has predictable outcomes. I do know that gratitude has predictable outcomes, and they're very positive in a person's life. But other things may work on a case-by-case basis, but they may not work for enough people for a professional to teach it to others.
Well, that's a perfect segue into our next topic, and that is May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Right.
And every year new words enter the lexicon, and, they seem to be buzz things going on. It was being authentic or being present, being now. But it seems nowadays more people are addressing and talking about and dealing with and helping with mental health. For the longest time, the term mental health had a negative connotation where it was somebody who was sick or wasn't right, or it seemed to be a scapegoat for everything that's going wrong in people's lives.
Yeah.
And a lot of those things are true, but some of them aren't. And what we want to do is be able to address mental health. So when somebody says something to you like, what is my mental health? What is mental health?
Oh, it encompasses a lot of things. I think it's how you feel emotionally. Do you feel stable and good emotionally? It's your style of thinking. We call that cognition in the business. Like, are you in an optimistic, positive state, or do you struggle with one of the things I work with people on a lot are called negative automatic thoughts. Those negative thoughts that pop into our head all the time. And as I've said before, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, how we think about things, our perception has a direct influence on how we feel, and those emotions have a direct influence on what we end up doing. So a depressed person is more likely to have negative thoughts, negative moods, and unproductive behaviors. So mental health probably has to do with more of what we do every day than even our physical health does.
Well, that got me thinking.
And I would say mental health is physical health, because every time you think something, every emotion that you have, it has a physiological correlate. You can't think, feel, or behave without something going on in your brain and your body. So they're very much connected.
Very much attuned.
Yeah, that's a good word, sure.
So, I go to the gym 6 days a week, and a lot of these people I see all the time. And I spend anywhere from an hour 20 to hour 45 in the gym.
Okay.
And I don't think I put that much time into my mental health in a week, an hour and 45 minutes. How can people help work out their mental health? Does that make sense?
Well, I think that is part of how you take care of your mental health. For example, just you going to the gym for an hour and a half, what do I know about you? First of all, I know that you're a human being, so physiologically it improves your mental health through, serotonin, dopamine, and other neuroreceptors.
Runner's high is a thing.
Yeah, working out does improve your circulation and all those kinds of things. I also know that you're a very social guy, so that's part of it. You know everybody there, right?
They call me the guy who dances at the gym.
Yeah, that's
She goes, every time I look around, why are you dancing? And who are you dancing with? I go, just myself.
Yeah.
I'm listening to 90s hip-hop, baby. Let's do this.
So you're enjoying yourself, and you're social, you're talking to other people, and you're doing something healthy for yourself. And that's a mental health exercise. Like, if you make a good choice to eat something healthy today, or if you make the choice to get some exercise or get more sleep, the knowledge that you're taking care of yourself and doing something healthy for yourself improves your mental health overall. Now, it may not be enough to treat a depression problem or an anxiety problem, But I promise you, no matter where you're at on the spectrum of mental health, if you made 3 positive choices for yourself in one day that you don't normally do, got a little more sleep, ate something healthier, I skipped the fast food and I made myself something healthy, or I took time at lunch to go for a long walk, or in the evening, or I play with a dog, or I call up a friend, anything that's good in your life on purpose, you'll go to bed feeling better than you woke up.
So it's the small steps that can change to big things.
My advice to people today, though, for mental health May awareness, which I'm glad we have, is communication. And one of the things that I deal with a lot, working a lot with adolescents and young adults, is suicide and suicidal thinking. And there are a lot of people of all ages, believe it or not, even very young kids, who have suicidal thoughts. And those thoughts are on a spectrum. Something from, oh, I wish I wasn't here, or I wish this day was over, is pretty mild, but it's on that spectrum, to having a plan of how to take your life.
And everything in between.
And most people are still embarrassed and hesitant to tell anybody that they're having those kinds of thoughts.
Do you think they're afraid to tell people that because they think there's something wrong with them? Or how do you open up a conversation that have those thoughts? Because from your mouth, it sounds like most people...
I think everybody has had some passive suicidal thoughts. Like, I just can't do this. I wish this day was over. Doesn't really seem like a suicidal thought, but it is in that vein of giving up, right? And some people have thought, I wish I were dead. I wish I didn't have to deal with this life. I feel overwhelmed. And most of us work through some of those things, but we work it through better when we have help and support.
There's a thing going around on text right now that people do. It's called FML. And it's the F word, my life. And sometimes people do it jokingly, but sometimes you can read into it and you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's heavy, right?
Yeah, I mean, And I think people do it in a jokingly manner, but there's got to be some truth or some realness behind that because people don't just throw that out.
So that's probably, I mean, I'm sure there's some that think it's funny, but for the most part, people do little things like that to try to get a little help and support. Like throw a little line out there, see if you hook some help and some support. Most people are hesitant to bring up that they're struggling, but most people want the help and the support. And that's why I go back to communication. The people that you love in your life, friends, family, people like that are important to you, how often do you ask them how they're doing? Not in a weird way, just like, how's your life, And
then actually listen.
And then be a good listener. It doesn't mean you have to do much more than that. Or they may divulge that they do need some help, and you might be somebody that could help them figure that out. You don't have to be a psychologist to support somebody. Absolutely not. In fact, usually the best support comes from the people that we love and trust, and they might help you find professional help if you need it. But sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just need to know that somebody loves you and cares about you. So I am this month really taking every opportunity I can to encourage people to check in with the people that they love. Put your arm around them. Just say, I love you. How you doing? Tell me about how you're doing. And be willing to model that. Tell them how you're doing.
Yeah. And if you don't see them in person, slide into their DMs.
Sure.
Just be like, hey, just check in.
Let technology work for you.
Because that's what's so cool about Facebook is that, you can really connect yourself with people that you've known for the past 30 years, and just reach out and go, hey, look, you know what? I just thought of this funny thing that we did 20 years ago. Just wanted to check in on you and say, hey, how are you doing, man?
I grew up in a small town, Morgan, Utah, with, class of 105, graduated in 1990. To this day, they're some of my very, very favorite people.
I saw on the Facebook you were hanging out with two guys you went to high school with at a soccer game.
Yeah, so my good friend Amy, her son was playing in the state championship for Morgan High School, and my good friend Dan called me up and told me they're playing. Why don't we go support Amy? And so we went and did that. And another good friend, a couple friends from high school, we went golfing in Mexico recently. Like, I love these guys. And Facebook that's the good part about social media. The social media gets a lot of hate for good reason, but I'll be honest with you, it's a great way to connect with people, at least start a connection or reconnect,
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it. So May is Mental Health Month.
Mental Health Month. I can't even say it, apparently.
I'll get it out. So reach out and connect with someone that you haven't seen for a while and just ask them how they're doing.
Just talk. Yeah.
We've got a wonderful show for you today. We've got skiing royalty in the house.
I know. It's exciting.
His name is Scotty Hoffman. Scott, how are you?
Good. Very good. Thank you.
And you've been sober how long?
15 years, 6 months, give or take a few days. Right.
How long were you partying for?
25 before that.
25 before. And we're going to find all about Scotty's story and his journey. You're listening to Project Recovery. Hey, welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. Our guest today is Scott Hoffman. How are you, man?
I'm doing super good. Thank you.
So I've got a rich history with Scott Hoffman.
Yeah.
I used to ski for his father at the Ogden Valley ski team. This was back in the 80s. My brother did. My dad did work with him and all of that. I even worked for his father at the laundromat right off of Harrison Boulevard in Ogden.
Right.
I see your mom golfing quite often. She's a lovely lady. But I've even got a weirder story.
Oh, good.
Uh-oh.
So right out of rehab, I was pretty much unemployable. I had a buddy who owned a moving company, and he says, you can come work for me. And the moving company was in Salt Lake, and I lived in a suburb called Farmington, which is about 35, 40 minutes out. Didn't have a car, didn't have a license, had no way to get there.
Yep.
Buddy of mine, Hayes Wood, wonderful dude. He paid for my Uber to and from work every day.
Wow.
And gave me an hourly compensation, which he didn't take the Uber out of. He just wanted to support me and give me the opportunity to get back on my feet.
Wow.
And without him, I don't think I would be here today.
That's impressive.
But part of my job was delivering furniture. We would move furniture from people's offices, homes, and when we didn't have that, we delivered furniture for Restoration Hardware. Expensive furniture.
Yeah.
And since I had the TV experience, whenever there had to be a phone call, I was the guy to make the phone call.
To be the face.
And so we're driving up in the East Bench of Salt Lake, and I get this number, and I'm supposed to call it and say, hey, it's Casey with Restoration Hardware. We've got your couch. Can we meet you and deliver it? So I call, and this lady answers, and I go, hey, this is Casey with Restoration Hardware. She goes, hi, how are you? I go, we've got your couch. And she goes, is this Casey Scott? And I was like, what?
She recognized your voice?
I go, yeah. And she goes,
classic.
Casey Scott from the news? And I was like, yeah. She goes, what are you doing delivering furniture? And I was, well, it's kind of a long story.
Do you have a minute?
Yeah. Let me bring you your couch because we're both going to need to sit down for this, Yeah. And it was Julie.
Yep.
And it was your house I was delivering furniture to.
It was indeed.
And I remember.
Julie is who?
Julie's my better half, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I go in there, and then Scotty comes out, and I talk to Scotty, and I tell him that I'm, my story, and then I'm in recovery, and I'm getting ready to start this podcast, and I'm kind of nervous because, I've been partying my whole life, and I don't know what this is going to look like. And I remember you telling me, he's like, if you want it bad enough, you can get it. And I remember you telling me that it's a beautiful thing if you let it be.
Right.
And that was probably a month out of rehab. And now for the past 5 years since I've been in recovery, I've had the chance to work with Scotty in a couple of different capacities. He does a lot of stuff with Keystone Living, right?
Keystone Recovery Center.
Yep.
Right.
And then he does stuff with the Valley Camp, which is up in
I've heard about that.
Eden, Huntsville.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for many years.
Right.
And we finally figured out a time to get you down here.
Pressure's on now. I'm nervous. All right.
Don't be nervous.
Here we go.
Because the crazy thing is I grew up idolizing you. I mean, in the ski world in Utah, in the ski world in general, Scotty Hoffman is a force to be reckoned with. I mean, he is amazing. Real quick, to let people at home, what are some of the highlights of Scotty's ski career?
Skiing career. So would be... there are a couple of events that are still going on within the country. It's the Roach Cup, the Aspen Roach Cup. And the reason I say that is I was able to go there last month. It's an event that I won. And these are the biggest names in ski racing, and I get to stand there with my trophy beside them. But I mean, these are World Cup legends that are able to do that. So
you skied around the country as part of the World Cup?
I did. No, well, not so much the country. I mean, we had a World Cup. We have 2, sometimes 3 events, World Cup events. But what that entailed was from 1976 and 1982, when I was on the U.S. national team, we would travel to Europe a lot. Spent a lot of time in Europe, either World Cup races, Europa Cup races, FIS races, but spent a lot of time at those big events.
We're going to get to your ski career in just a little bit, but
Gotcha.
Where does the story of Scotty Hoffman begin?
I'm an Ogdenite like you.
Yeah, the biggity O.
Oh, big O, for sure. But I was born and raised in Ogden. Mom and Dad were Hoffman cleaners, not just Hoffman cleaners, but they were just good old Ogden people, right? Mom, my lovely mom, and also 2 sisters, Heidi and Kathy, that eventually ended up being incredible ski racers, represented BYU, national champions, right, that type of deal. So, but I was born and raised in Ogden, and I must say, if I could, born and raised to be an Olympic champion, World Cup champion or whatever. Dad was a ski instructor, ski coach, as you were pointing out. Ran the program there. It's right at Snow Basin, now the Snow Basin ski team. So, no, I was born and raised in the community. 2.5 years old, I started skiing. Gradually moved up. I got better and better. I mean, it was classic. It was the movie type story that, ski instructors, the ski patrol would watch me. He would drop me off to go do his lessons. You know, when I turned about 5 years old, I was able to do it pretty much on my own. He would drop me off. I would go over on the mountain. Instructors, patrolmen would help me get on the chairlift, and away I would go. You know, I had a couple of buddies. And, the rest is, as you will hear, is just history.
And but it was a good childhood.
It was amazing childhood. Amazing childhood.
And you skied, and then you got better and better. But you're on a podcast for a reason. Do you remember the first time you tried alcohol or any kind of substance? You know,
I do. It's interesting not to get too far away from that. I would. So this is a place up in Ogden Canyon, the Hermitage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Some of you. Ogdenites and people that know Snow Basin people. I mean, it was a place that Dad and all his buddies, they would stop in there after skiing, drink beer, and the drinking beer ended up going into whatever busting, fighting, beer bottles. But that's how they lived, right?
Yeah.
So I'm there and a couple of buddies, we're sitting in the booth in the back. Reached over and grabbed one of the leftovers that the boys were drinking, right? And the girls or whoever, and just, I took a pull on that, and it was kind of, it was good. I just at that time it was okay because I didn't overdo it. But as you'll know in the rest of the story, you'll know how that turned out for me.
How old were you when you took that first sip?
So I want to say 12, 13, 14.
See, for us, it was after skiing because I had the same childhood you did. I remember learning up on there, having a little pizza, getting a little pizza strap in between your skis. But it was more of tailgating after the day of there or going to the Shooting Star.
Sure. Oh, of course.
Yeah. And so 12 years old, you took your first sip, and then you probably just, partied like a normal guy for the early childhood, or did you jump into it pretty heavy?
Right. No. I held off for until I turned 30, and let me tell you, that part of the story is I didn't drink that much, and what happened with my ski racing career, I got better and better, more successful, so I moved up the ranks, and I made our U.S. national team at the age of 16 years old.
Wow.
Right? So I got to tell you, it wasn't something that was very receptive to partying. And don't get me wrong, I gotta come clean and be honest. We drank, we had fun, weekends, this and that. But I really. Plus, I got to tell you, my father, the old man, he was a hard ass.
Yeah.
He was. Don't. This is not. This is our direction. This is where we're going with this career for me. And so,
did he push you hard into skiing? Want you to be the best?
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Did you want it too, though?
In a good way, yes.
And you wanted it. So
yes.
He was a father and a manager, and he was getting you to where you needed to go.
So many different hats that man was putting on, sure.
And to be honest, you guys shared the same dream.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
And I love that. And so at 16, you make the nationals team. You're giving it everything you got.
Right.
And you're going big places.
Yeah. And so, we started talking about the drinking, that it really wasn't with Dad, it wasn't necessarily allowed, although, of course, we're kids, we sneak it. I got caught in Mammoth Mountain, California, with one of my dearest friends, Don Beck. Mm-hmm. We traveled there. We snuck some beers in a cooler at a motocross race that we were back there, and sure as hell they caught us, right? Right? So party's over. Pack your stuff. You're going home. But that was about the extent of it then. But so what happened is, it didn't really pursue, as far as the addictions and the alcohol didn't. I mean, I was now a national team and trying to portray that image and also keep up that level of expertise, results.
Competitiveness.
Counted, thank you for the words. Competitiveness, just to stay on top.
As a teenager, and I don't know if you know this about teenagers, but usually they don't have great insight. Did you have the thought, if I drink too much and party too much, it's going to hurt my ski career, or was that not on your mind as a teenager?
I don't think that really, it wasn't a factor at that time. I mean, we're still, when you're young, I mean, I was bomb-proof, you can go
Invincible.
Thank you, yeah. 6 feet tall, and yeah.
And you're really not 6 feet tall. How tall are you?
Ouch! Throw me under the bus.
How tall are you?
5'5", and this is the crazy thing. This is the crazy thing with bone density. I have a bone density problem with myself that I have now. I have injections. I mean, I've lost 2.5, almost 3 inches over the last 3 or 4 years. Some serious health issues going on. So.
But if you're 16 on the national ski team,
you feel
6 feet tall.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So it seems like in your 20s, you kept everything together pretty good.
I did. So one little setback, and then this is what turned me into going to the NCAAs and also into pro racing was, so this would be 1979. I was in Europe traveling, World Cup, and I contacted a meningitis. Right? So back then, I mean, it was pretty much not a death sentence, but almost, depending on what.
Yeah, very serious.
Yeah. So I came home. They said, "You're not going to be ski racing anymore. This is done." I mean, I was blind. I was in the hospital and for a long, long time, and it was probably not going to be recover to be ever at any kind of level.
A pro level.
Yeah. Luckily, if I was going to be able to ski again. So what had happened springtime, I buckled down and went to work for the old man, and I was toe to toe down at the cleaners, and phone rings. Dad walks over and says, "Hey, Spence wants to talk to you."
And Spence is who?
Yeah, Spence Eccles, right? And I say, okay. So I go over and of course I wasn't supposed to be skiing. I wasn't supposed to be doing this, and he is pearls of wisdom and whatever smooth talking. He said, "Hey, why don't you come down to ski for us down at the down at the University of Utah?" And, and I thought about it, and Dad finally said, "You know what? This doesn't just affect me, but it's Dad, Mom, my sisters, everybody, right?" So Dad says, "Well, maybe you could at least get an education out of this career that we've set up for you, right?" Mm-hmm. So I did. Fall came around, entered into school, and started ski racing again. My health got better. I got better. Started skiing, started racing again, and it took off. I mean, I had the release of pressure of the World Cup, right? And I got to tell you, at the time, I thought, oh man, this is going to be such a step down. I'm going to be NCAAs and this and that. It was kind of a letdown. But truth be known, Oh, so far from the truth. These teams are stacked.
Let's just pause for a second. The NCAA was a letdown for this guy.
All right.
No, that's awesome.
No, you're right.
It's awesome. And I get the chance
in my mind, right,
at the U where I work.
Right.
I get the chance to work with D1 athletes and Olympic hopefuls and some of the pro athletes in town working on anxiety stuff. And that's true. These people are different. That you're doing World Cup at 16, 17, 18. That's amazing.
Right.
I just want to pause on that and say this is the real deal we have here in the studio today.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, these people are kind of superhuman.
Oh, yeah. So you're now doing wonderful things for the NCAA.
Right. So, yeah. But I thought it was going to be such a letdown. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me. It was the funnest year of ski racing that I had to that point, right? So I'm with my college buddies, my Norwegians, every national. They're stacking these teams, especially now. If you look, these are Olympians, medal winners. But it was going on back then too. But then, the friendships and of course my drinking skills. Let's talk about drinking some beers. Oh my God! The Norwegian scroll. That's one of the prayers that I was probably taught then.
Yeah.
But man, we had a killer time. I won a lot of races, and not just my success, but it was NORAM races. These are North American races, slalom titles that I ended up just because I was going to college, right? But it worked out. It worked absolutely wonderful. I ended up at the end of the year. We won the NCAAs, University of Utah. Go Utes.
There you go.
Right on, whatever. But I won the slalom, was second in the GS, won the overall, and our team, that was our first University of team title.
Cool.
Spence Eccles loves that story. But anyway, so at that time, I had, I think I said on ESPN on an interview, I wanted to turn pro. I said I was done, right?
Yeah.
So I did. I turned pro and jumped into the pro gates. Rookie of the year, first year out of the start. Wow. Second overall, top American throughout the next quite a few years.
And does the partying continue with the pro circuit?
Yes and no. So I still had to hold on to that image in the beginning. I guess so. This is great. You caught me, and I have to backtrack a little bit. In those first couple of years, no, because I was still so dedicated. National team coaches, dad, whatever else. It was just the only way I was going to be successful as a pro to keep doing the same thing. Uh-huh. But I kind of let my guard down a little bit. I owed it to myself, right? I'm pro. I can do this. We had Friday afternoon. I would sign posters, right? Go to dinner events and pro-ams and this. There was drinking, whatever else, and some of the other stories that you probably know about and hear about.
Yeah.
It was going on. So I started partaking as those years went on. So there was a 6-year span. So second, third, fourth year. And then what happened is third year into my career, in the pro career, I got injured. I blew up my knee, right?
And that's devastating for a skier.
Devastating. And I had already had one previous. Ended up for the next 2 or 3 years having the same problem. So I would miss half a season. I would try to come back, work my tail off trying to get back, of which I did, but never to that same level that I was at before. So I started being more, I was kind of the pro-am guy. I would schmooze with some of the donors and yeah. So I started getting good at that.
So basically becoming the face for the ski industry.
Right.
And traveling around and getting people excited and doing promotion for upcoming events and stuff like that.
Coming events and some of the sponsors and donors that I still have.
I think it's interesting is that you said, the only way to attain this kind of success is if I keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
But then you got to a certain level and you said, but I deserve this.
Yep. Oh.
And that's an addict brain, and that's how we talk ourselves into it. You know what I mean? Is that, come on, man.
As if it's a reward.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you probably saw it as a reward. Or
entitlement issues, right.
There's entitlement's huge.
Yeah.
For addicts, entitlement is huge.
Right.
Well, I think one of the things, you can tell me if you think this is true or not, but it shapes how you think about what you're entitled to when you're out signing posters for people.
Oh, right.
Regular people don't have anybody asking them to sign a poster, right?
Right.
So it means you're special. It means you're somebody, and it starts to build that ego, and the ego gets bigger, and the ego thinks, I can handle anything,
Right.
including getting messed up when I want to.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll just a bit backtrack, talking about autographs. First autograph I signed was over in Europe. I mean, they didn't give a squat about what we were doing here in this country. You go to Europe, I signed my first autograph on the side of the Autobahn in West Germany, right? I thought that was the coolest thing, and then when I started doing
cool.
No, it's super cool. Looking at it now, and of course the cute little giggly girls are like, "Oh, can we have you?" And of course
And
it was in German.
You're a celebrity.
Right. In their mind, I mean, it was like football.
Yeah.
To them,
Yeah,
skiing.
that's their sport.
And then now, so when I'm telling you the story about signing pro posters every weekend, it's like it was kind of a nice reminder. I mean, that's how the progress had gone.
Sure.
So now you've damaged your knee. You don't think you'll ever ski as competitive as you once did,
Right.
And so now you're becoming Good Time Scotty and helping out with advertisers, donors, and events and stuff like that. Does the drinking start to take over then, or?
Yeah, well, let's talk about some entitlement issues. So I announced my retirement in 1989, right? Do I go back a little bit and throw in...
Sure.
Throw in a second wife in there. On that last year on the Pro Tour, cute little snowy snow bunny that traveled around the tour with me, came back, and we eventually ended up getting married. But where was I? Help me out.
No. So you renounced your retirement in 1989.
Right. So,
And
How old of a guy were you in 89?
how old? What?
How old were you?
in 1989.
Your age.
29.
So that's what I knew. I knew he was going to still. Nobody gets to retire when they're in their 20s unless you're an awesome athlete.
Well, let's look at it now. I mean, retirement now. See, but back then they told us that we were over the age of 18, 19, 20.
Uh-huh.
I mean, some of the biggest names of ski racing, they're still looking back at that. Mm-hmm. And then also at 30 being too much. I mean, guys are married, wives, kids, divorces, going and up until 40 years old or however many, with some of the biggest names in ski racing now. So
let me ask you a question. During your heyday of professional skiing and all that, had anybody ever pointed out, was like, "Hey, Scotty, you party a little too much. You might want to cut that back," or were you pretty good at keeping it at bay, or did you don't care what anybody said because you were 6 feet tall and invincible?
No, this is a great lead into. I told you about my retirement. So, 1990, I'm Aspen, Colorado. This cute little snow bunny, Lizzie, love you dearly. Anyway, I started work for the Aspen Skiing Company, but Dick Dorworth. I mean, talk about a history, a man in skiing and ski racing in the skiing world, but I went to work for him in the Aspen Ski School. And what happened was my not showing up on time. This took a 1, 2, 3 year process, but me not showing up on time told me that I needed some help. And that's minimizing alcoholic fashion, minimizing when he said, you might need some help. It's like, if you want to keep your job, do something about this.
Yeah.
And let's keep in mind that lovely wife's at home Friday afternoon for paychecks. I was lucky to make it home by Monday morning, right? She said, you know what? I could sure use some help with these new babies that are in our house that you've just left. Seriously.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
So you work all week, get your paycheck, and then party all weekend.
Bar, yeah.
And ignore some of those responsibilities like wife, children, things
commitments.
like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
But you sell it to yourself, this is what I deserve, this is what I need, and this is who I am.
Damn straight. Sure.
And that works until...
That was my mindset, right?
Yeah. So, do you lose your job after 3 years at the Aspen Ski School?
Eventually, yes. I was there 8 years and was politely escorted, asked. This is after the divorce. We went through separation, You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
So this is my mindset when my drinking, when she says, you know what, I could sure use some help at home, and so I started going to AA meetings, and of course I'm looking. I'm not like you guys. You obviously don't know who I am. What the hell are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
But so I'm going to meetings, signing the paper, appeasing the wife that I still had. And I also, so then things started getting a little worse. I couldn't hold up my end of the game, and it totally was a game.
I get it.
Like you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Trying to keep that at peace. So I said, what about couples therapy? Let's talk about the couples therapy. So and that corny phrase, when you pointing that finger, I got 3 coming back at me.
Yeah.
I did. I went to this wonderful therapist, couple of them. Now that we went through, but I talked my lovely wife at the time into let's do couples therapy.
Yeah,
thinking right. I had no chance. I was no more going to change. I took my drink to sit through the couples therapy meeting. I had a couple shots of vodka in the thing. And you know what? She caught me. The lady caught me because she could smell it on me.
Yeah.
She got, how embarrassing.
Yeah.
Right?
Coming drunk to therapy. There you go.
No, huh? But that's what our mindset does. And so that's what I did. Couples therapy didn't work. So progressed farther forward. And no, it just continued to keep going.
Till finally she had enough.
Finally she had enough. That's where I got to. Thank you for reeling me back in. So Pickens County Sheriff and my wife, now ex-wife, I left town. So I did what you gentlemen would know, and all of us know that are geographical, right? I'm going to move back to Utah. I'm going to move back to mom, dad, the home country. Mm-hmm. That's going to make it better.
Back to basics, right?
Yeah, that's
I'll
going
get
to
a good reset at home. Get away from everything that's doing this, and yeah.
I was so far gone. I was so screwed up with. By then, let's throw some cocaine in there.
Sure.
Oh, right. Let's get that ball rolling. Drinking cocaine, and by the time I got to Utah, I ended up moving into my grandmother's house. That was basically, I had nowhere else to go.
Let me ask you this. As a professional ski racer, been all around the world, retired at 29, made the Nationals at 16. I mean, you lived a pretty good life.
Right.
At 38, you got to move into grandma's house.
Right.
What does that feel like?
Right. It was demeaning, but I'd also... I didn't really have. I mean, my mindset then. My addiction is so in full force. I'm like, this would be a great way to keep this momentum going. Not on a positive note, but my drinking, my
Keep
addiction.
partying.
Oh hell yes, yeah. So garbage cans, recycling bins, Budweiser. I mean, there was not a lot of food in any one of them. Right,
just empties.
Yeah, totally. So that's how that part of it went.
So you moved into grandma's, and how long did you party at grandma's for?
For quite a while, and then.
Let me stop you there, because the champ comes back home.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, you come back to your hometown, the Golden Boy.
Right.
And
right.
What was the response to the community when Scotty comes home?
I think at first it was okay, and the other part, of course, I've forgot that when I first came home, I ended up moving back in with my sister Heidi, right, and. Her and her lovely husband got to take care of me to try to straighten me out. Then that didn't work. That's when I ended up moving back into grandma's house.
They had enough of you?
Pretty much. I mean, I was doing the crazy, crazy stuff that we do, right? Not an excuse, but it was just not a good look. I was devastation, destruction that I'd started back in Aspen. It continued on with Heidi and Gordon, then my mom and dad. Possibly work for Dad later on.
I think one thing, you can comment on this if you like, but like kind of what you're telling me, the sad side of this is, here's a young man who's been on top of the world, like Casey pointed out all your achievements, skiing in Europe, having, being a celebrity.
Right.
Lost it.
Right.
Resent the knee injury, resent the loss of the pro career. Marriage, lost it. You don't have that connection anymore. Good job in Aspen, lost it. So here you are living in somebody else's house, and I think that's really hard for a person to wrap their mind around. I used to be somebody. Now I'm living in somebody's basement.
Right. Remember how hard you took it when you said, I'm skiing for the NCAA?
Yeah.
And now you're living in grandma's house.
Yeah. And so I think, but the ego's still there, and knowing that you've been somebody is still there. I think one way that people deal with that sort of, for lack of a better term, trauma and loss and grief is to deny it and keep partying. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to recognize my fall from grace. I'm really not a celebrity. Nobody's coming over to grandma's asking me to sign a poster anymore. Right. But we don't want to admit that to ourselves, and so drugs and alcohol kind of keep us numb.
And the other part about that is, I can tell you from experience, you surround yourself people who do not have your best interests at heart. I mean, you start hanging out with people you normally wouldn't hang out with and doing things you wouldn't because there's no pressure there. You don't want to party in town and see somebody who knows dad or mom. You don't want to party and, you don't. So you start hanging out in not good places.
Right. No, exactly. You're telling my story.
Well, because I lived it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got my own version of it.
For sure.
You keep that going for how long?
Well, I keep that going for until DUIs and in and out of treatment, in and out. I'd love to. We'll spend some time when we get into some solution for addiction. We can talk about a couple of treatment centers.
Tell me about the first time you went into a treatment center.
That was perfect. Good timing.
Yep.
Nice timing.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this yesterday morning. Betty Ford Center, right? So my lovely Julie and I have reconnected, and she's traveling back from Sun Valley, stops in Ogden to have a drink on the way home or see her friends or whatever, and I happen to be at the bar. And we hit things off. I had gone through a divorce. She was going through a divorce, and things got going, right? And so that entailed drinking, partying, this and that. But she's a normie, right? She finally looked at me and said, "You are out of control. You need help." Again, I'd already been to treatment a couple of times before. She said, "We need to get you into some treatment," right? So she helped send me to Betty Ford Center.
You're the first person to been on this podcast who's been to Betty Ford. And for those who don't know, Betty Ford was the gold standard in recovery. I mean, that's
especially for celebrities and folks, like
politicians.
It was Betty Ford. Being an alcoholic herself, she was one of the first high-profile people, I think, to openly admit that she had a problem, and she put her efforts into creating an alcohol treatment center.
Right.
Yeah, and in California.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she gets you into Betty Ford.
She gets me into Betty Ford. And
did you want to go?
So this is another high five on this one too. The idea. So Julie and I mean, she goes to a lot of functions, social functions, fundraisers. I mean, we're out.
Oh, I know. I've done tequila shots with Julie.
So we're going to fundraisers where, I mean, there's parties, there's this going on, and honest to God, gentlemen, I went to Betty Ford with the intention they high-paid professors are going to teach me how to drink responsibly. Honest to God. So
that was your expectation.
That was my expectation, to try to, rather than that, I wasn't going in cold turkey. I wasn't going to quit drinking. I mean, it was kind of crazy thought. This is going to love this. This was so bad. This is, if you think about how many thousands of dollars somebody just paid for me to go to treatment to get my together, right? And get my life back in order. I drank on the plane on the way home. Seriously, this big book This is a $30,000 big book. Honest to God. I drank on the plane on the way home to test the waters, to see if their teachings, my new $30,000 big book, worked.
Yeah.
And it didn't. I failed miserably.
Spoiler alert. It didn't work.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I made it maybe a week, 10 days. I was back at it. Casey, you gentlemen know that it doesn't let off.
Right.
It just continues on.
But isn't that interesting? That was your mindset, and back to what I said at the beginning of the show, thoughts, feelings, behavior. How we think about things determines all the rest of it. And your thought was, I'm not going to go be sober. I'm going to learn how to drink like a gentleman so I can keep going to these functions, and I want to be able to keep drinking. And so as soon as you got out on the plane ride home, you were testing your hypothesis. You never changed your mindset.
Oh, no.
So you come home, in about 7 to 10 days you make it, and then you're back at it.
Oh, yeah.
And Julie's probably not too happy.
No. Oh, no. And that poor woman, not a funny statement. It's stuck in denial, right? So she went through this for the next, I don't know how many years, how many treatment centers. I mean,
do you know how many you've been to?
I'm gonna say a dozen. Some of them I did so well at the first time I got to go back, and I'm being a smarty, you know what, for saying it like this. I went back 2 and 3 times. Valley Camp, I'm alumni at Valley Camp 3 times. Betty Ford once. Sierra Tucson, the Cirque Lodge.
Been there.
That's right, yeah. Right. I mean.
Lindsay Lohan went there.
Thank you. She was. Oh, well. Anyway, Family Week, we had an interesting. Yeah. But that's the way it.
But in 2002, you go to another one.
Right.
Which one was that?
Right. So you're bringing up that story I told you, aren't you?
Well.
So this is actually 2001.
Yeah.
2001. This is Snow Basin, state of Utah. We are gearing up for the Olympics in 1 year, right? So...
And who knows skiing more than you do in your family?
Right. My drinking had escalated to the point, and I can remember this plain as day, standing at the front door with Julie, that 1 year, that was our goal, 1 year. This would be 2002 Olympics, February 8, 2002. So a year prior to that, she had sent me to, that's where we went to Betty Ford.
Okay.
Right? So after that, I was in and out. I didn't make it. I made the 1 year. Casey and I were you and I were kind of joking about it. I'm like, I got my 1 year. I'm good. I'm up prepping for the Olympics. I'm on this wonderful team. We're setting up the downhill, side slipping, doing all the cool stuff that, in my mind, dreamed that I someday should have been there. Right? But 1 year anniversary, birthday, coin, my chip that we get in AA. Mm-hmm. And that was on the 8th. I'll bet you by the 15th of February, I was drinking again. I did. I made it. I did. That's all I needed to do.
Well, there's a lot of people who think that 1 year is the milestone. After a year, I've figured this out. This next time's going to be different.
Right.
Because, look, if I really had a problem, would I be able to make it a year?
Right.
And that's the lies that we tell ourselves, is that, I made it a year. Real alcoholics can't make it a year.
Totally.
And they're two different things, but that's the way we sell to ourselves. Right. So by the 15th, you're drunk again.
Yep. Yes.
So let's go to the last time you went into a rehab. What were the circumstances that brought you there?
This is, I don't know if you planned this or if you do this.
No.
Last time I went into rehab, my last rehab that I went into was prison.
Really?
Right.
I didn't know.
Right. Yep. So in and out of the program, in and out of the fellowship, in and out of detox centers, and then jail. How many times I went in and out of jail, and then finally I was sentenced to prison.
For how long?
A year, 12 or 14 months. I think with good behavior, I got out a little bit early.
I'm guessing you missed the Olympics.
No. I saw the 2002. No. I did. Okay. I did my part, man. Okay. I did that. That's when my entitlement issues. We keep bringing up that terminology, but I was good.
So, do you mind asking what you got sentenced for? I mean, it's
DUI.
DUI,
and not of course, not one. And, for 3 DUIs, it was a felony. And it was classic. I can see the guy. And this is the cool part of this story is it was Judge Dutson up in Weber County.
Yeah, I dated his daughter. Annie.
Oh, more stories. I love it.
Yeah, I did.
Super cool.
I went to high school with her.
Right.
Yeah, we were on the
right.
swim team together.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Anyway, for go before Judge Dutson again, he gave me a chance originally to go into work release. Right. I spend my nights in jail, wake up in the morning and go out and go to work, come back and check back in. I went from his courthouse to top of the Ben Lomond Hotel. I was roughing it.
Yeah.
You and I are joking and laughing, right? I was far from it. But so I didn't make it from there because, of course, I had to celebrate because I wasn't going to
prison.
Yeah. Right? Far from it. I went 10 days. I had mom, dad, sponsor, dear friends, my sister Heidi, a bunch of people knocking on the door, wellness check. I mean, that's how my drinking escalated, right? So when I went before Dutson again, he did. It was classy. He'd peek over, those squinty little glasses that I put over the side. He looks over. He said, "Well, Mr. Hoffman, you leave me no choice." And he's looking over the prosecutor. He said, "I know you told me so," meaning prosecutor told about me. They warned him. They said, "No, this guy's."
Don't give him a chance.
Don't. Yeah. This is wrong.
He's going to let you down.
So, nope. So he did. He boom, gavel goes down, and I don't look good in orange.
Yeah, I get it.
But damn straight, that's what I was wearing on my way to Provo.
And so you
Draper.
got sober. You got sober in prison.
I got sober in prison. Do we want to keep going with
this?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going. I'm like still trying to wrap my head around this. So when you go to prison, you are locked down 23 of 24 hours a day. Right? You get out for an hour. You get to make a phone call, take a shower, or whatever, and this is great because, see, before that, people had finally fed up with my BS. Ex-wives, kids, parents, Julie, collect calls from jail or prison wasn't happening. But by the time I'd gone to prison, that 1 hour that I got out, the phone call, of course, I was calling Julie, and it took me a couple of tries. I did, and then I'm almost embarrassed to say, but of course, I was asking how she was, and thank you for taking my call. But I'm quite certain I asked her. I said, "Hey, can you call John Huntsman? Good friends of hers." And I said, "Call." He was governor. I said, "This is definitely wrong. I don't belong here. Look at these people."
You're looking for a governor pardon?
Oh yeah! Come on, we're laughing. This is a group chuckle laugh right now.
Amazing.
Honest to God, but that was my mindset.
This is the first guest on the show who actually knew the governor,
yeah, right,
and could try to go for a pardon.
Yeah.
No, but it was crazy, and I was quickly shut down on that. And but I got to tell you, things started to change in my mindset. Not to mention stories about my cellie on who murders and other people that were around, and sitting in the dentist chair when I'm having some dental work, and what craziness that he had gone through. But things started to click for me.
At some point, you got to have a conversation with yourself, and because
man.
I did the same thing with me, because I tried to blame everybody, entitlement, all that other stuff, and then I had to ask myself, who's been the one constant in my life? And it's me.
Oh, me.
And so I've got to have a little ownership of what's going on.
No.
I can't blame it on my ex-wife. I can't blame it on my parents. I can't blame it on the pressure. I can't blame it on the job. The only one that's really got to take some ownership is me. And when I had that conversation with myself, that's when things started to change. Like, okay, well, I've got to fix this.
Totally.
And so it sounds like you had one of those in prison.
It had one of those in prison for sure. And things just started. I told you that was the last treatment center that I went to. So when after my 30 days, 45 days of observation, and also looking at my history from my shenanigans in Ogden. Weber County, I told you, going to jail, the detox center, and we'll talk about prayer and meditation about that. My prayers consisted of then, get me out of this one, big guy, and we can talk. Honestly. And then you guys know
I made that same bargain.
No, we do.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
No, we do for sure. That's what we do. And anyway, so I went through the motions, and then they figured out, they put me in a treatment center in prison. Right? So
they recognized you had a problem, and they took a little mercy on you and said, let's get this guy into treatment.
Right. And it wasn't the as much of the clink slamming doors. It was a little more easier than that.
But not as nice as the Betty Ford Center.
Not as I got to throw a joke in there too about all the different treatment centers, right? So I'm going to rate the food at the Betty Ford, the beds in Sierra Tucson. Cirque Lodge has the best. So anyway, bring me back, reel me back. So anyway. Back to that. Where was I?
Well, so you got sober. They put you in a treatment center in the prison.
So, in prison, and so also my mindset then, I was a little reluctant because treatment. I mean, handful of treatments, 2 handfuls of treatment centers. I should be teaching this class, right? Seriously, you would think so, right?
Don't they know who I am?
And then beds made. 45 inspection, bounce that quarter off. I mean, my attitude had started to change drastically, right? And then I talked about prayer and meditation. When I was in Weber County, the hour that we got out in jail was going to church on Sunday. So my dear friend, I don't know, not Missy, my dear friend, I think you probably know Missy, she was connected with me, letters throughout prison and this and that. So I started going to Catholic church in prison. You know, I finally had gotten to the point where I need to do something different, right? Whatever I've been doing ain't working, right? For sure. So I started doing that. I did the treatment center in prison, and then going to church. Found some new things there. The missing link. I keep reaching over to my big book. That thing threw me for a loop. God, higher power, stuff like that. I'm like, I thought it was just AA. You just hold hands, say a seance, and right, be healed type of deal.
No, you got to do the work.
Yeah, you got to do some work. Right.
So you get out of prison. What does life look like for Scotty outside of prison? No longer wearing the orange.
Nope. Things are looking a little better, but, and this is crazy. I try to make
Did you hear that?
But so the place that I was living in, that wonderful Ben Lomond up the top, that's cool. That's the cool part of it. But AP&P building is right next door. That huge block building on 25th and Washington. Guess who my neighbor is?
The jail.
No, well, the jail and AP&P building. My parole officer, everybody else in that building. So I'm on a curfew now, 9 p.m. I got to be tucked in nice and neat. I got to be home at 9 p.m. at night, right? And my new PO is a stone's throw away. So that's easy peasy for him. But I got to tell you, things started to click in. I wasn't trying to beat the system. I didn't want to try to beat. I'm like BS, man. I'm in. I'm over this. Plus, you know what? The embarrassment, the disappointment that I'd done my family, my friends, everybody else. I'm like, let's roll the dice and go with this direction. Throw it on this table.
What do I got to lose?
What do I got to lose?
Well, I think that's a good point, actually. You know, for Casey, he's a TV personality here in Utah. For you, you're an international ski celebrity. You know people like the governor and the Eccles. And so when you embarrass yourself, you have a much bigger audience.
Oh, man.
You two guys than the average person. And I can imagine that at some point sunk in and you realized not only did I screw up and hurt my family and friends, but a lot of people saw me do it.
Yep.
So you start to go down that direction. Things start clicking.
Right.
How do you get involved with Keystone Recovery and Valley Camp?
Oh, You are so good at this.
I don't know. I've been trying.
It's not your first day at camp.
Yeah, professional.
Jeez. So what happened was my sponsor sent me back to my meeting to Valley Camp. He said, you get that GSR position back. GSR, General Service Representative, of which represent Valley Camp in our district up in Brigham City, represent Valley Camp. So get your butt back into service work. The first thing he told me, he said, I want you to go to the Saturday morning men's meeting at McKay Hospital. Right? I want you to walk over, introduce yourself to a newcomer, ask if there's anything you can do for him. Get him involved in the program, see if there's anything, if he needs a big book or whatever. And then eventually, when I was able to go up to Valley Camp without a travel pass from my parole officer or something like that, he said, I want you to get that GSR back. That position back, right? Mm-hmm. So then I did that for 2 years, and it was another classic story too. So I would get to go to all these different treatment centers to check in, and when I was going there, whether it be Ogden Regional for their treatment center or somebody else's, another hospital or another treatment center, I would walk in the door and they kind of start to smile and say, Scotty, we don't have any beds available. No, they thought I was coming. Seriously.
I love it.
No, I'm here for you guys.
They're like, oh, no, Scotty's here again.
Right.
That's great.
And I said, no, guys, I've turned the page and I'm trying to do something different.
So what does life look like for Scotty now?
You know what? I have to tell you, it's you could make a movie of it. Now, not to be too bold, but it's not to make a movie, but it's just doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. Waking up in the morning and doing something for somebody else. I know that guy, that makes a lot of sense to a lot of people now. Didn't for me for a long time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think we in our addiction, we become so selfish, so egocentric,
right.
And it's blaming everybody else. But service is a key part to recovery. That's why I love doing this podcast. This is part of my service. This is giving back and letting other people know that recovery is possible. And there's many different ways up Sober Mountain, and there's a lot of people doing it, and they're here for you. And people always go, when they reach out, why did you pick up the phone? Because somebody picked it up for me.
Right.
And so that's the promise I made, and that's the deal I made. And so if somebody wants to know a little something about recovery, and if I can help you in any way, that's what I will do, because somebody did it for me.
Me too. I get so many calls. Not a lot, but enough calls from friends, family. Hey, listen, I have a family member or a friend that needs some help. You know, wonderful lady from California called me, a dear old friend, national team member, said, hey, I have a friend. We need to get him some help. How can you help? I'm there. I mean, that's the easy peasy. And the other part of the nice thing to say is that you realize me helping you, you're actually helping me.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the thing.
That's like a newcomer. That a newcomer is the most important person in the meeting. Right? And for me, with the selfish side of me, reminds me this disease is alive and well out there. Mm-hmm. For sure. Right?
It's thriving.
Thriving. So real quick, Valley Camp is what? Valley Camp is a men's inpatient treatment center that, you can go 30, 60, 90 days, stay there, and then a nice lead-in for my next, the other project that we're involved in, a Keystone Recovery Center, transitional housing. And we, after you graduate there, and you don't have to go to Keystone, you can go anywhere where else fits on your treatment plan, on your release plans, where we can put you. But that's usually the way it goes.
Scotty, why is transitional housing important?
Oh, excellent. Dr. Matt, talk about being on it. For him. Oh, get that one across there for sure. But transitional housing. The success rate, and there are some facts and figures in that little booklet I brought, but you guys know the statistics. Success rate
13%
goes up extensively extensively with transitional housing.
Well, because the reality is that so many people go to a recovery center. And they'll get sober. They'll spend 30, 45, 90, whatever it is.
Right.
And they get the pink cloud, and that's where everything's good. This is attainable, and we can do it. But then they go back to the same situation they left. Sometimes that's a toxic environment, not conducive to your recovery. And so you wonder, well, how are you going to thrive in a place that you failed before?
Right.
So a transition house is perfect because it will give you the tools and a safe place to stay while you figure out your next move.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
I love it.
I think it's essential to real recovery.
Right.
So, Dr. Matt, what are your thoughts on Scotty's story?
Now, wait, I had one more.
Yeah, you betcha.
Go for it.
Thank God. Josh is going to edit, but you asked me what my daily life and what my life's like now. It's kind of twofold. A couple of hats. You got a hat going on there. I have a couple of hats with treatment centers that are up and running and very successful. I also a Snow Basin ski team. Snow Basin Ski Education Foundation, right? Absolutely love that. I was born and raised there. You spent a lot of time around in the area, and you know what goes on there, but absolutely love it. So I'm all in. I sit on the board. I'm one of the head coaches, and part of the deal with that, so the group I'm with, they're the 10 to 14-year-olds. I try to teach them some skills, some ski racing skills, right? But I also want to tell you, that's the make or break years. Honest to gosh. You guys know that, right?
I believe it. Yeah.
Meaning not skiing part of it, but when we start looking at drinking and some of these stories that you and I are smiling about, and anyway, the make or break years, I try to keep them engaged in that, right? To do something on the snow, off the snow, to keep them engaged through those years before things take over, whether it be drinking, drugs, or something else like
Helping
that.
them not go down that path.
Right.
Yeah.
And if I may,
because that path is pretty welcoming.
Yeah.
Especially
so when you're that age. Yeah.
I mean, your only currency is willing to do it, and you are embraced and welcomed into that world.
Right.
It's pretty easy.
We're at a phase right now with the Snow Basin ski team kids that 14, 15, 16 years old. They girls, guys, so we start looking the other way and going back to school, not going to school, going somewhere else, moving. So we're losing a lot of kids like that. So if we can build that solid base now, that's what I try to do. And I got to tell you real quick too to finish up.
I'm pretty sure you've never done anything real quick.
I've done. I've done. I do an awful lot of fundraising for whether it be these treatment centers, obviously.
Yeah.
And also with the ski team. So I go to these donors that have helped us tremendously over the years, building all these treatment centers. And I go back to them because there's a lot of stuff going on up at Snow Basin. We're trying to get some money to do this, a new building, this. And I go back to them and they say, Scotty, what do you need now? What are you bidding for now? What do you want money for now? And I try to tell them, right?
Good stuff.
Ski team stuff, and they're a little apprehensive. But then I throw that card in about 10 to 14 years. Those do or die years. I said, help me keep these guys involved. Right?
Sure.
Doing the right thing. And so what we've done is we've set up a wonderful scholarship fund, the Butch Hoffman Scholarship Fund.
I love it.
Huh?
In honor of your dad.
Right. That I have very, very little to do with. It was a name and the money. These people love giving, and the scholarship funds goes to people economic that aren't able to actually pay to be on the ski team, so that they're not the snot-nosed brats that have the money to be on the ski team.
Yeah.
They actually need that scholarship and that work, and so
give them that opportunity.
Give them that out. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask you your question now. What do you think about Scotty's story?
Well, it might take me another hour to unpack everything I think about Scotty's story, but I'll tell you this. I'm going to quote Scotty. What I'm doing ain't working.
Right.
And I think, as you were telling your story, for me, in your storytelling, that was the pivot point. That's when you had that moment of insight. What I'm doing's not working. I got to do something else. And I think, all of us, whatever our bad habit is, whether it's drug and alcohol addiction or some other bad habit,
porn,
as soon as you can really dial down on, what I'm doing just isn't working, I think that's a golden opportunity for change. So I appreciate you bringing your story and inspiration, frankly, to everybody.
I love the fact that listening to Scotty's story and talking about all the amazing things he's done. I mean, from joining the Nationals team at 16 to signing autographs on the side of the Autobahn over in Germany to being a pro ski racer to helping with the 2002 Olympics. When you talked about those stories, there was a light in your eye.
Oh, yeah.
But when you talked about things going on at Valley Camp and giving back to the kids, the light was even that much more brighter.
Right.
So, I think you're a happier person now. And unfortunately, you had to go through what you did to get where you are.
Right.
But you're such a blessing to the community. I think your family has got to be beyond proud of the accomplishments that you have done. And it's an honor to call you a friend. And we're lucky to have you stop by and share your story. So, Scotty, thank you, man.
Likewise.
Yeah, thanks, Scotty.
Likewise, everybody. It's a treat for me. So I'm humbled, grateful, and blessed to be able to do this now. Right?
You're amazing.
On the right side of the deal.
Well, thank you for stopping by and allowing us to give you one more episode of Project Recovery. And in case you forgot, Project Recovery is what, Dr. Matt?
It's a KSL podcast.
Humbled, blessed, and what was the last one?
Grateful.
The contents of this program are for informational purposes only. The program is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician, licensed therapist, or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you've heard on this program. KSL does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the program. Reliance on any information provided on the program is solely at your own risk.